Good morning, good evening, good day, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of Tech Conference Series for 2022. We are kicking off with the spring edition of the event, the first in a series of 4. We waited a long time since our last edition, and for today we have 7 panels, more than 20 speakers. So it's going to be a really entertaining and fruitful edition. And without further ado, I'm kicking up the day with a panel on cybersecurity and privacy in the era of blockchain and AI. And for this, I'm going to invite our friends and speakers, Felix Negreza and Andrei Bunu from Cryptodata. Hi guys, welcome everybody. Please let us know a little bit more about yourselves, about what you're doing, and about Cryptodata.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Alex. It's great being back here. I take great pleasure in our panels, in our chats. I always feel amazing when I watch them and when we're invited. So thank you, and thank the entire team for extending yet another opportunity for us to talk about amazing things. So without further ado, for our audience, as you have already mentioned, we have prepared what we hope to be is an insightful panel about cybersecurity, with connections to some of the things that are happening on blockchain technologies and AI for you today. My name is Felix Negreza. I am the head of the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Cryptodata. And I have a background of a little bit of software engineering and software development with some machine learning, data science, and AI. And I am very, very pleased that today I will not be talking by myself and presenting this panel by myself. I am joined here by one of my colleagues in Cryptodata, Andrei Bunu, who I'm going to let present himself now and tell us a little bit more about his background.
Hi guys, thank you Felix for the introduction. Thank you Alex as well for having me here. Sorry if I'm a bit nervous. It's I'm trying to get out of my shell and practice more. I'm wearing the cybersecurity specialist hat at Cryptodata. I have a background of computer science, like Felix. I'm a full stack developer at heart. I also play a bit with IoT devices, and security came as a second nature, because I like to play around with things and make them do stuff that they're not supposed to do. And that's a quick and small intro.
Awesome, Andrei. Thank you so much. So I think we can just jump ahead, dive right into some of the topics that we prepared here for today. And probably best way to start, I think, would be to just have a little quick discussion about cybersecurity in general. Cybersecurity is a very hot topic in itself right now. There have been a couple of books published just trying to bring more and more attention to this topic. And I think that especially in the context of these rather weird times that we have been through for the past 2 years or so, with lockdowns and with pandemic restrictions and with people being at home more, people being connected to their devices more than I think probably ever before. I think there's a lot to say about that. So Andrei, I would kindly ask you, maybe we can exchange a couple of words about some of what's happening in the pandemic, cybersecurity wise.
So we're gonna focus just on the last couple of years. I'm not this discussion between me and Felix. We're not trying to focus on current events where global players are involved in a full-fledged cyber war. I would dare to call it. But for today, we're trying to see how all this affects a normal user, not necessarily the very technical user. So someone that was put in the position, okay, now you need to work remote. Now you need to pack your laptop, plugging into your own network, your own Wi-Fi. Okay, some companies they were prepared; they had VPNs. Some companies they were not prepared, so people had to connect. There were no policies involved, and no a clear delimitation of this is work, this is home, this is personal stuff. And based on that, we've noticed that, especially with COVID, since COVID started, we've noticed a rise in ransomware now because it's easier to target, let's say, residential areas. It's easier to target users through one of my favorite social engineering methods, which we're gonna go into a bit, phishing. Phishing with a PH. I'm calling it a social engineering method because it's you're trying to make the user do an action, click on a link, input some data on a false pretense. So saying that, hey, I'm John, your manager. I need you to install this VPN certificate. Please click here. And some people, especially since COVID started, didn't have the security training or had the minimum security training just because their bosses didn't want them to worry about this. So don't worry, just come at the office, you'll connect through our network, everything is secure. But now, don't worry, go at home, put this certificate, you'll be okay. Based on that, we've noticed an ascending trend on I would say, phishing attacks, I would say ransomware, and for a lack of a better and more technical term, a lot of scams involving COVID as well, involving donation, release funds, all that. It's become more. Help me out, Felix, here.
More prevalent, probably, right?
More prevalent, yeah, exactly. More widespread, more widespread in this period. Again, as you said, that's because some people were not prepared. Some people were easiher to distract. Because let's face it, if you're in the office, you're in the office. You're not going to open your Yahoo mail, which is full of ads and full of everything, because you might worry someone will see it. Or you're not going to go on certain websites that you would normally visit, because you probably heard that, the traffic is it's tracked, or the websites are blocked, for example. But if you're at home, there's no harm done in visiting my favorite news website or visiting my favorite, anime website, for example.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's kind of like two sides of this coin. The way I see it, on the one side, the phishing tries to exploit people's lack of technical savvy, maybe technical skill to a certain extent. I'm sure many users don't know what SSL is, how a certificate works, what the DNS is, how it can be rerouted, stuff like that. So there's one aspect of it, but I think the other side of the coin is there are things that are trying to exploit people's either good nature or other human related factors outside of their how technical savvy they are, right, of their technical skills. So like you mentioned, we've seen an increase in a number of hot topic related scams, COVID related scams, donations related scam, relief funds, and things like that. And I wanted to interfere here for a little bit, because you talk to people from any profession, any domain, and depending on what profession they're in, they're gonna say things like, depending on what the profession that they're in, they are. They tend to believe that the downfall of society will come from something that they study very closely in their profession, right? So if you talk to doctors, they'll say, we are doomed because, antibiotic resistant bacteria. And if you talk to somebody who's in, international relations, they're saying we're doomed because of rising, military conflicts and so on and so forth. But from my point of view, because I am, this is a cool bias, and as any cool bias, I want to partake in it. And my part in this bias is, I think a lot of, maybe not the downfall of society, but that's an exaggeration, definitely. But I think a lot of damage can be done with AI tools that not only help automate scams, but rather take them to the next level. So there's two things that I have in mind here, right? One of them is, and some developers already know this, there is a NLP language model that is a huge neural network. It has over 100 billion parameters. So it was developed by the people from OpenAI. And it performs at unprecedented levels on all NLP tasks. So anything we can throw at it. It does amazingly well for a language model, that is, right? We're nowhere near human level AI, and it's called GPT-3. There was this funny video on Twitter. Somebody who had a key to access the GPT-3 API asked it in natural language in English to write a web app. And it described what the web app should have. Like, it should have these buttons, it should look like this, blah, blah, blah. And the result from the language model was the actual React code. And you could take the React code, compile it, run it, and it would have the web app. So that's pretty incredible. But then the scary part comes, and this is actually a fun fact. This is actually one of the reasons GPT-3 is not open to the public. It can very easily be used to generate fake news that are tailored to you, based on the profiling that people can do with scraping and with data collection on social media. And I know that you and I are planning to go a little bit deeper into that today. But based on that, as the famous Cambridge Analytica case is pretty much what they did, was try to see if they could detect your political leanings. And if you have that, right, that's pretty easy to do. If you have that, then you can use very powerful language models to just tailor fake news to what the user is, biased towards, wants to hear. And it could be used to I think, create scams on an unprecedented level, simply because we didn't have this much raw power before, right? So that's one side of things. Then there is the deep fake side of things. And we've all seen the famous TED Talk with the two videos of Barack Obama, and the presenter asked which one is the real one, right? And you can have deep fake doctored videos of famous political figures, community leaders, and so on and so forth, say all sorts of things, and it would be quite hard for the average user to discern that's not a real person, and they're not saying real things. They're part of a very large scam. So I guess the question to tie it back to our more general topic of cybersecurity today, I guess the question is, how can people avoid all of this? What can we do to try to protect ourselves, educate ourselves in regards to that? And part of the answer to that is that the good news is that you always have new technologies that appear to combat existing problems. A threat comes up, software wise, it is patched, it is fixed in a subsequent update, subsequent version of the software. You have malware comes up, and then AI comes up, but then again, you also can train AI to try to detect malware, right? We also have, and pretty much any email provider has some form of machine learning that's trying to differentiate between legit emails and spam emails. So that's already put there, that's already in place. So that's always a good thing. But then you have these generative adversarial networks, neural networks, which build the deep fakes. The interesting concept being that you have a neural network that's trying to generate content, but then the trick is that you have a second neural network that's like trying to adjust what the first one is trying to generate, and saying, this is not good, or this is okay, you should continue doing it like this. And they do kind of this back and forth with one another until they generate something that's quite indistinguishable from the real thing. It's like playing chess against yourself, something like that. So the technology is fascinating, but you can use it to create, as we have all seen, you can use it to create pictures of humans who don't exist, right? They just combine features, or they generate facial features. And what happens if somebody plugs one of those images into a KYC system, into your know your customer system? It's trying to validate transactions, do all sorts of things with it. So yeah, I think this is the overall grand question that's worth exploring. What can people do? What we should be aware of? And I think that since all of these everybody knows that the discussion about artificial intelligence, the discussion about data, they're pretty much they're intertwined and inseparable. And I guess to pass it back to you is let's try and see how can this expanded process of data collection affect cybersecurity and privacy. Because this is, data collection and privacy is something that I really want to go dive deeper into right now. So, well, what do you think? What do you think about this, general idea?
So I think when you reach to the point of deep fakes, and I'm glad you made a short presentation and you're asking this, because this is one of the biases I think that people imagine when you pronounce the word hacker or whatever. They imagine that you need something like this complicated. You would think that, in order to bypass this, I would need to create a deep fake, and I would need to, make sure that I have an ID as well with the same face and just present it, and everything is going to be okay. And this is how I can do my KYC on whatever websites, which, by the way, there are methods to prevent this. I know for deepfakes, one of them, it's presentation attack detection, because deepfake, it's a video stream, so you would need to detect the liveliness of the face, of the actual face. Like if it's an actual face. Again, as you mentioned, on both sides there are different techniques, but until you get to that point, let's paddle back a bit. Meaning, until you get to the point like, oh, I need to create a deep fake in order to, I don't know, scrape information and hack this Binance account and whatever, get the money out. For people who are not in the blockchain industry, Binance is one of the big exchanges that offer exchange between fiat and cryptocurrencies. Okay, going back to the importance of privacy and basic security. When I say basic security, I mean your daily, I don't know, passwords and username. We have layers for this as well. If you want to go full paranoid, create a separate email for every account, separate password, two-factor authentication with text and every possible. But the idea in cybersecurity is to have a balance. I don't want to make it too hard for myself either, right? So the whole thing is, you want to access Google. You don't want to have to spend 20 minutes to reply to an email, right? You want to have security that's accessible. And one of the easiest methods is to make sure that you have a different, something that I recommend everyone to do, have a password manager. We can go into detail about that, but have a password manager, generate a different password for every account that you have. Or just something that it's a known trick, just have a really long password, but it doesn't have to be complex as in, I don't know, characters that don't have a meaning. Of course, it helps if you add symbols, if you add uppercase, lowercase, but you can have like a simple password, like Felix and Andrei are having a talk here about cybersecurity. That's a way more complex password than $7. Or yeah, I think you get the point. On top of this, let's go let's move a bit to the topic of privacy. On top of this, make sure that you don't have that many private details online, or if you do, as I tell anyone, okay, you want the whole world to know that you have a pet dog and your pet dog's name is Brutus. For the love of God, when you put like security questions on any website, bank website, Gmail, whatever, don't put Brutus as your dog name. Give it another name. It doesn't have to be a real dog. Just give it another name. Like that's the message that I'm trying to put here today, because we're doing a lot of interesting stuff with security at Crypto Data as well. But 80% of the attacks are okay. Some of them are highly complex, but what I'm trying to say, like a lot of them are just someone leaked a database of username and passwords, and that person happened to have the same password for every possible PayPal, Gmail, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. So that's one of things that I'm trying to emphasize: privacy. So privacy. Go on, Felix.
Yeah. So you're saying that privacy kind of like ties directly into cybersecurity.
In nowadays and age, yes, because we can elaborate a bit on on certain types of scams that go around. We are lucky, let's call it, to live in Romania, a country where it's difficult to, well, difficult, I wouldn't say impossible, but difficult to steal one's identity, just because everyone here who's Romanian, we have a lot of paper trace. So we're not fully digitalized as some other countries. Or if we are, there's another database somewhere that's not connected to the other database, and so on and so on. Which means that impersonating someone on identity theft, it's not a thing yet in Romania. But still, like a couple of days ago, I got a call from my bank from a normal number, so it wasn't like a special number. Again, it doesn't make any for me, it doesn't make any difference. And they asked me to confirm the specific words. Please confirm your social security number and your date of birth. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much. I'm going to call the call center and I'll confirm in the call center to the robot, and then I'll ask, okay, what's the problem? This goes back to what you were saying, because you started discussing about the deep fakes and everything, which is nice. But a lot of people can be tricked with just giving their social security number and date of birth just by a confident voice at the other end of the phone. So yes, we do have complex measures in place, but what's the point if a voice on the phone can ask you like really, really personal details? In my case, it was social security number or our government ID number and my date of birth, which again, from a random person just saying it's my bank. Okay, maybe it was actually someone from the bank, which it was, to be honest, it was. And I told them like, look, don't do this. Like it's not okay for people either, because in their mind, they're going to think like, oh, everyone who's calling me and tells me like I'm from the bank, I'm from your telecom provider, I'm from your ISP provider, we'll just give them details. So you'll create a precedent. So we don't want that. We want people to know like, yes, we need to confirm, please call in the call center and we need this with you or whatever.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying is first we should keep in mind that even though we have this complex penetration testing, application level faults, all sorts of man in the middle attacks, and all of these even more complicated technologies that operate on software level, because when people say cybersecurity, I guess most of them picture the characters falling down from the screen like in the Matrix, right? So they picture the software
exactly. No,
they picture the software side of things, but what I'm hearing saying is, and I kind of like had the inkling that this was the case. Most of what's happening is actually on the most common approach of hacking is actually on the social engineering side, in which the users, the people, are somehow manipulated, tricked into giving up their credentials or giving up some data that could be used by malicious actors in all sorts of circumstances. And I guess the point that we were trying to make is that this ties in with the idea of caring about privacy, caring about the data collection, the cyber data collection. And the reason I'm mentioning this is kind of like I'm restating what you said in the beginning is I hear a lot of the "I have nothing to hide" argument, and even philosophically speaking, we have an understanding that this is not a good sound philosophical argument anyway. But then there's also this extra technical layer that not only is it a good argument in principle, it's also a defective argument in practice, because a lot of the data that can be collected from you can be used and will be used by malicious actors to try to do all sorts of all sorts of things that maybe some people don't even think about. For example, I know that I remember we were back at the office. We were talking about dating scam. Can you please briefly explain in 1 minute what dating scam is? Because I found it fascinating.
Now, the idea is all this started when I had a conversation with someone and I told them like, and they'll hack your Facebook. And their reply was something along the lines of what you said. It was like, so what? I have nothing to hide. Everything is public anyway on Facebook. And I told him yes and no, because some of the people you have in your list are actually your friends and your family. So the dating scam is just a part of what happens if someone gets your Facebook account. Really easy method. Yeah. So once they got your Facebook account, we're not going to talk about the details, either through a phishing email or reusing the same password which appeared on a list on the dark web. There are tools that monitor this, by the way, on the dark web as well. Getting back to the dating scam. So what happens? I get your account. You have, I don't know, 1,000 people. Out of those 1,000 people, at least 10 people probably are your good friends and care about you. And the easiest thing that I would do if I get an account, just to combat this, so I have nothing to hide, I would ask people for money. The easiest thing to do. Hey, I'm in a bit of a trouble. Haha, lost my cards. I'm with this friend. Can you send Revolut? Can you send? I wouldn't go to crypto if I know that person is not crypto. You can analyze a bit the discussion. You can analyze, and here is where machine learning comes into play. If you want to be like really diabolic, I wouldn't say it's very lucrative, but yeah, you can analyze the interactions that person has. So if you have. If you have 1,000 followers on Facebook, let's say you discuss with 10 people every day. I would go to those people and tell them like, hey, I'm here. I'm logged out of my phone, out of battery. Can you send money to this number? Can you send Western Union? Like I'm sure people do that as well. But if the dating scam works, as you probably guessed, if you're a female, this is how people tested it. You would add people, you would use the photos that you have, and the easiest method to scam people out of money would be to just tell them that on this platform they can see more of you. Everyone understand what that means because it's a PG-13 friendly conference. So you would just add your referral link and send to all the lists of people. Again, if you're female and you have like a lot of, I gave Facebook as an example. On Instagram, it's even better. You just put a link and then, yeah, I'm guessing a percentage of people will just fall into that trap and just pay legally, meaning like they'll pay via their credit card. That's one way of doing it. But then there's the other bit when, okay, so you can go on this website, see pictures of me, whatever, but instead of a very popular website when fans can see their
models, preferred
their
models.
models, yeah, their perfect models. It's a phishing website where you put your card on that specific website, and this is one method that you don't need to be, again, super hacker man to do it. Like it's nowadays, it's really easy to create a website. You can clone a web. There are tools that clone websites in less than 5 seconds. And so, okay, Google will flag it at one point, but you only need 10, 20. Yeah, until that happens, I don't want to be that person that gets his card
stolen,
copied. Yeah, stolen. Yeah. So that's, again, this is a bit of, the dating scam. The idea is that for some of these models, the Facebook account or Instagram account, or now they're better at securing. Either the password is really easy to guess, so my cat 2001 or whatever, or they were involved in a public leak and they haven't changed the passwords. Again, that's comes back to what I'm trying to. So that's what I'm trying to tell people with this talk, like trying to make people have minimum security, not understanding, but
let's say, no,
best practices.
Knowledge, best practices,
not knowledge and best practices. Because again, you would think, okay, so they get my Facebook, they get my Instagram. Oh, guys, I was hacked. I'm so sorry. Oh, yeah, you lose credibility, especially if you're a well-known person in the industry. But even you, as a person, imagine if you send your parents, which may not be tech savvy, and you send them a text saying like, "Hey, I'm with this person. Please send him money because my phone got stolen, and I'm from his phone on Facebook."
Yeah. No, I
coming
get that.
back, coming back to this and to what I said previously. If you get a message like this, just call that person. You can call them on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on whatever. Just call them with video. They won't have a deep fake prepared. It's not worth it. So the scam is at a low level, so it's not worth it. It's not something that it's going to worth like, okay, I'm going to create a deep fake model. I'm going to train a neural network, and I'm going to do all this just to scam someone out of 20 euros or
okay, of course,
10 people out of
yeah. I think
going to this, we can then discuss if you want this petty scams, these small scams, because our topic was blockchain and AI, are moving a bit into blockchain nowadays, and I think you have something to say about that as well, right?
Yeah, no. A little bit, yeah. I was thinking, about when you described the dating scam. I was thinking, you mentioned at the beginning that the first thing I would do is just probably message a list of people, ask them for money, give them a pretext or something, and see if out of 1,000 people, 10% or something like that will actually reply and try to give them. But the idea of asking people for money kind of reminded me of a point that we were making in our coffee table talk this morning, which is it's the natural law of events that scams and attacks follow the money, generally speaking, right? And nowadays, obviously, due to a lack of regulation compared to fiat, there's a lot of money in DeFi, in decentralized finance. So this is where cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology comes into play, well, I think that the market cap is a little over $2 trillion, but that's a lot of dollars. And in the space of decentralized finance, there are very, very many people who would not have gone into stock trading or into
art trading,
fiat.
because art because we're going to touch NFTs, and I know there are some panelists here who are going to talk about their project and involvement with the NFT market as well.
Yeah, that's one part of it. But I was trying to say that in the entire space of blockchain communities, of cryptocurrency projects, and so on, very many non-technical people got into play. Very many people who don't understand what the blockchain is got into play. Many amateurs, let's say, got into play. You have a lot of people who are essentially children. You have a lot of amateurs like the users on Wall Street Bets who bought GameStop GameStop stock, and right. So there's a lot of capital that has been moved into the space of decentralized finance. That's one aspect of it. Then another aspect of it, there are very many people there who don't understand the technology, who don't understand what's happening, who don't understand what they're doing, basically. Then another aspect of it, there's a lack of regulation compared to fiat, which everybody knows and everybody understands. So this kind of seems to me like the perfect storm for all sorts of cybersecurity, privacy, phishing, and scam-related issues, right? So I guess then my question back to you, or my point back to you, is let's try to talk about how are transactions on the blockchain secured. Is a blockchain more secure than paying with your traditional debit card or credit card? What happens when a user signs a blockchain transactions on a dubious website, and then its consequences, right? Maybe compared to fiat and stuff like that. So basically the question is how is the whole security handled in the blockchain world?
The answer to the previous, like, is more secure. Obviously, it depends. It depends a lot on the user. There is this big chunk of people that came into blockchain, but not prepared. But in all fairness, it took them a while. So Bitcoin started 2007, 2008, and it took a while to gain traction. And during that time, a lot of people started, and a lot of people like you and me started and studied the market. So Cryptodata was founded in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and as a mining hosting facility, which based on that, it became much more. But my idea is, I wouldn't necessarily compare the blockchain transaction with the card payments. One reason is, and the most important would be, that once you sign a transaction, once you approve the transaction on a blockchain, you can't make a claim. You can just ask nicely that person that you sent the money to give it back to you. On a card, credit card, especially transaction, if it was as we previously mentioned, collected and used fraudulently, you can have a claim at your bank, and there are procedures in place to make sure that the transaction is either canceled, money returned, and the police gets involved, and so on and so forth. Again, being a centralized means of payment, it's there's a procedure in place. So just to answer that one question, it's not necessarily, from my point of view, it's secure by the fact that it's approved by everyone else in the blockchain. But to get into this, we should probably get a bit into the blockchain technology, the consensus, and everything, which again is something that I don't want to get into, just because the whole point I'm trying to make, it's make sure you practice good cybersecurity hygiene. Meaning, you generate your MetaMask. Again, for example, MetaMask is one example. You generate your wallet. There's a public key, there's a private key. You put a password for the private key. You have 24 words that you're supposed to either learn or store somewhere on a piece of paper in a safe place. Some people don't know that you're not supposed to give those keys away. So again, coming back to the social engineering bit, there are Discord and Telegram groups that people get lured into, and again, through social engineering, they make people hand over the wallet keys. So it has nothing to do with a complex mechanism. Okay, so he installed this malware and I'm collecting, it's a keylogger and it's collecting everything, it's collecting its passwords. No, just plain old, oh yeah, welcome to the club. In order to mint this NFT, you need to sign in with your wallet and you need to give us your password and your 24 keys. Because as you said, there are a lot of people that moved into this industry just with disposable incomes. COVID started from our beginning of our discussion. COVID created a lot of disposable income for some people, of course. Some people were affected, but a lot of people who were taking holidays every year, like 2-3 holidays. Now they weren't traveling, they had a bit of money on the side. And that created this. The point I'm trying to make is it's not necessarily more secure for the group of people that we're talking about. Because again, our talk was about like non-technical, normal Alice and Bob people who are just tuning in, listening to us rambling about cybersecurity, not getting into the really technical.
Yeah, I agree with you. We don't have to get into the really technical, into consent mechanism and how all of that works. But I think that the overall impression is that we should do our best to try to educate people about best practices, about some of the things that are happening out there, and about things that they need to be mindful of. And obviously, then users themselves, I think it's more important than ever in the history of personal computing, because we've never been at this scale before. It's more important than ever to take the time to learn about what is happening. What are some of the things that are happening out there in the cyber world? How we can protect ourselves? What are some of the best practices that you've been talking about? What are some of the things that I, as a user, need to be mindful of, and maybe need to research or try to look into on my own? So, for example, in the context of very many cryptocurrency projects and very many NFT projects that just pop out of nowhere, much of the drive behind those projects is on platforms like Discord and Telegram that are full of bots. They link to websites that have been generated, as you said, in a couple of seconds, and they point to some LinkedIn profiles that are purposefully aged, so they're fake. And it's more important than ever for people to know what to look at, what to look for when engaging with communities in general, or when engaging one-on-one in a conversation online with somebody, to try and discover what's happening there. Is the community real? Are they arguing with the bot? Are those real users? Are those real Facebook accounts, and so on and so on and so forth? Because I think this immense discrepancy between the popular culture image of a hacker and what the reality of who a hacker is, right? So there is this in popular perception and in pop culture, TV shows and movies mostly, there is this image of a hacker that never gets out of his basement, writes very complex, very complicated lines of code, so interacts with software alone. This is, I think, an important aspect of the misunderstanding. Interacts with the software alone and is trying to build all of this polymorphic code software that goes up on a big server out there, and tries to gain access to break in, so to say. When I think the reality of what's happening is most people log in, not break in. And most of these hackers can be teenagers with a lot of spare time, right? can be teenage, young people with some determination to get a little bit of extra cash. One of the famous hackers that I've been reading about in a cybersecurity book I finished a couple of weeks ago, Kingdom of Lies, was a 17-year-old from Iran, right? So and his motivations were the motivations that you and I had when we were 17. So exactly the same, I want to make a little bit of extra, extra cash. I have all of this time on my hands. Or I know that you and I have been talking, and you mentioned something very interesting that I think maybe the audience should be aware of, that a hacker can be a very well-dressed, very presentable lady or gentleman claiming to be your HR representative, right? A hacker can be, a very charming guy in a Starbucks. They're not interacting with. So I guess the point I'm trying to say is that we need to instill in users, in people, the idea that hackers are not these guys that are spending all of their time writing very complicated code. They are rather these very normal looking people who are trying to get to them, because it's much easier to log in than to break in through all of these social engineering.
Well, yeah. Right? To an extent, yes, of course. We're not talking about obviously like statewide hackers and like already well-known hacker gangs or stuff like that. We're talking about how a normal user should protect itself. Meaning, like, of course, if you're part of a targeted attack, it's more difficult with just what we said. Yeah, what we discussed here was like a minimum, like a baseline, like something that's your average Joe should know, and your average Joe should make sure that it's taking into account. There's regarding hot topics, you mentioned teenagers. Some people here, if they're connected with the industry, or even if they're not, they probably heard about the Lapsus gang and being a teenager from Oxford. They did some really complex hacks. So in their case, it wasn't just some well known, to be honest. So they were previously used, like especially both in Microsoft and Okta's case. I think it was two-factor authentication bombing or something like that. But again, as you mentioned, people highly motivated. So both these big companies thought like, oh, okay, we must be targeted by some really one of the top dodgy organizations. And yeah, turns out it's just a couple of kids that too much time on their hand and, as you said, motivated by financial gains, because for them it was easy. No. We're not discussing about them and those types of attack. We're discussing just for our advice is for the regular everyday user. Like make sure you have like a minimum best practices, especially with what's happening with, as Felix said, with AI and with deepfake, makes really easy to have a channel on Telegram with 100,000 people, which out of which just 1% are real. And in that 1%, it's you, the guy who's getting played, and the guy who plays you, basically. So, yeah. I don't want to sound too gloomy, we're trying, just to give you a bit of a context, because I think we're approaching the end of the talk as well. As part of the security specialist at Cryptodata, we developed a router that connects to the blockchain, to our blockchain, and we're trying to make this really user friendly. I know there are other solutions, but that was the reasoning when we created this. Meaning, you want to block ads because of privacy concerns and tracking. There's just a flip of a switch. You just switch and we'll block your ads. You want to go through a VPN. You want to use Tor, again, just a flip of a switch. The idea behind this project that we developed and we're still working at CryptoData was again with what we discussed here in mind. So that was the motivation behind it. The fact that people now need an easy way to protect themselves, and of course, coupled with what we previously discussed, using a password manager, never using a password, making sure that if you heard it by big companies, usually make the news, like the normal news as well. So if LinkedIn gets hacked, well, not if, when they got hacked, you would know. So yeah, just change your passwords.
Yeah, or there's this article in the press that there have been leaked databases. There's also this best practice of changing your credentials then, or maybe updating them once every 6 months, let's say, or something like that. If not even the recommended once every 3 months. But as my colleague Andrei said, and because we also want to be mindful of the time we have left, I think I think that we no longer, especially since end of 2019, beginning of 2020. We no longer live in a world where people can afford to go about in the cyber world, go about do their business and not care about security and not care about privacy. We have been focused on this short talk here today, mostly on end users. There's another, of course, there's another discussion entirely about cybersecurity for organizations. They didn't have teams of cybersecurity experts, the so-called white hat hackers. But what most, I think what as you mentioned in the beginning of the talk, what most malicious actors realized was that there are a lot of money to be made, and there are a lot of opportunities in the average users themselves, as the mere fact that we have something like $2.3 trillion market cap in cryptocurrencies right now as we speak. It's true, some of it is coming from big institutional players, but most of it is coming from what is termed retail. So most of it is coming from users, and we at CryptoData specifically want to empower the end user as much as possible, whether it's through our products, whether it's through coming here and having these talks and these conversations, whether it's through sharing knowledge and best practices. Empowering the user with what they can do and what they should be mindful of. So yeah, I think we touched on some of the more important points that you and I wanted to make. On behalf of CryptoData and Andrei and myself, thank you, Alex, and everyone in your team for giving us the opportunity to chat at you guys, even if maybe not with you guys, but to chat in your general direction.
Thank you as well for accepting the invitation. So basically, let me get this straight. If you named your dog Brutus, an unknown hacker that's a pretty lady could steal your data and you might lose cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Yes. Long story short, yes, you got it perfect. Yes.
Thank you for the summary.
Joke aside, I really enjoyed the panel, and I really liked the fact that basically, as you said, you focused it on end user, and you touched base on some of the most common things. And there are things that an average user could benefit of, and I really liked the aspect of the talk. And maybe why not? We could extend the discussion on the business side of privacy and crypto and cybersecurity and everything like that. Maybe in an upcoming edition, or why not in a podcast, since we're doing that.
Yeah. So, we had fun. We had fun. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Felix. Thank you very much, Andrei.
Thank you.